Dust choked the air as Maya crouched at the edge of the crater, her gloved fingers tracing the jagged lip of what had once been a tercel workshop. The ground here, on the outskirts of New Damascus, still bore the scars of the first incursion. Cratered earth and twisted metal from when the Dominion's enforcers had tried to bury their secrets deep. Her salvage team moved like shadows behind her. 5 hardened souls in patched enviro suits, their breather masks hissing softly against the wind. She glanced back, her eyes lingering on the smallest figure among them. Lena, bundled in an oversized suit that made her look even younger than her 16 years. Maya's sister had begged to come, eyes wide with that mix of fear and defiance that twisted Maya's gut every time. "I can help," Lena had whispered last night. "I'm not a kid anymore." Maya hadn't argued. She just nodded and slipped her into the crew manifest as Tech Assist L. Ree. Hiding her here felt like a lie, but leaving her in the bunkers alone felt worse. The Dominion's assimilation waves could hit anywhere, any time, and Maya couldn't lose her. Not Lena. Not after their parents. "Perimeter secure?" murmured Jax, her second, a wiry ex-miner with scars across his knuckles from too many cave-ins. He hefted his pulse rifle, scanning the horizon where the ruined spires of the city loomed like broken teeth. "No pings yet, but this hole's deep. Feels like we're poking a corpse." Maya nodded, her voice steady through the comms. "Stay sharp. Dominion tech doesn't die easy." She activated her harness lights, beams cutting through the haze as she rappelled down first. The walls of the crater sloped inward, layered with fused regolith and alien alloys that hummed faintly under her touch. Residual power, maybe? Or just the echo of whatever catastrophe had sealed this place. Her boots hit the bottom with a crunch, stirring up puffs of ancient dust that glittered in her light. The workshop entrance yawned ahead, a collapsed archway of iridescent stone, half buried but intact enough to pry open. The team followed, tools clinking softly. Lena landed last, her breath ragged over the link. Maya shot her a quick look. "Stay close," it said, and turned to the door. Her multi-tool whirred to life, interfacing with the faint energy signature. Tercel locks were puzzles, not barriers. They expected operators, not thieves. With a series of precise overrides, hacked from scavenged fragments over months of nights, she felt the mechanism yield. The arch split with a groan, revealing a chamber lit by emergency biolumes that flickered like dying stars. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with the metallic tang of dormant machinery. Consoles lined the walls, their screens cracked but humming. Maya moved methodically, her engineer's mind cataloging. Neural interfaces here, calibration nodes there. The Dominion built to bind, to turn flesh into extension. But today, they were taking pieces back. "Shard first," she said, pointing to a pedestal in the center. It held a sealed crimson data crystal, etched with the swirling calibration sigil of the Tercel Dominion. A helix that promised efficiency, obedience. Beside it, embedded in a cradle of woven conduits, lay the tool core, a fist-sized orb of polished obsidian, labeled in angular script as K'. Dormant, but Maya could feel the potential thrumming beneath its surface, like a heart waiting for a beat. Lena edged closer, her voice a whisper in Maya's earpiece. "Is that alive?" "Not alive," Maya replied, low and calm, though her pulse quickened. "Just programmed. Like us, if they get their way." She pried the shard free first, sealing it in her pouch with a soft click. The core was heavier, its weight pulling at her harness as she disconnected it. No alarms triggered, yet. But as she lifted it, A faint vibration pulsed through her gloves, as if it recognized her touch. The team swept the chamber quickly, pocketing minor components, wiring spools, interface chips. Nothing major, just enough to justify the run. Maya lingered by a console, her fingers dancing over the keys. "Jax, cover the entrance. Lena, help me with this." Her sister knelt beside her, hands trembling slightly as she held the power cell. Maya connected the core to a minimal diagnostic rig, a jury-rigged laptop patched with human code. Power trickled in, just enough to wake it without full activation. The orb's surface rippled, sigils glowing faintly along its equator. "Extracting manifest," Maya muttered, her eyes on the screen. Data streamed out in encrypted bursts, her hacker scripts peeling it layer by layer. The shard interfaced seamlessly, unlocking files that scrolled in cold, clinical script. Orbital tool node coordinates first, a lattice of positions ringing the planet, hidden relays that funneled assimilation directives from the Dominion's core worlds. Maya memorized the key ones, enough to plot strikes if they could reach them. Then the doctrine. Pages of tertial philosophy, boiled down to instrumentality. Humans weren't people here, they were potential tools. Replaceable, optimizable. Bind a neural link, and you'd serve the hegemony without question, your will just another subroutine. Maya's jaw tightened. She'd seen the remnants, folks turned hollow-eyed, marching to enforce her commands until their bodies gave out. The cost of resistance was high. But this was erasure. Lena leaned in, her voice hushed. "They really think we're parts?" Maya's hand paused on the core. "They think everything is, but we're not." She downloaded the essentials, purging the rest to avoid traces. The vibration from K-Prime intensified, a subtle query pulsing through the connection. Was it waking? Assessing? She cut the power, sealing it back in its cradle pouch. Evidence secured. But the weight of it all pressed on her. Lena here, the data burning in her mind. If the Dominion pinged this, they'd come swarming. A sharp crackle cut through the comms. "Captain Saeed to salvage lead," came Jonah's voice, clipped and urgent from the surface. "Recon pings inbound. Dominion scouts, light class, establishing safety perimeter now. Pull out." Maya's stomach dropped. Jonah's militia had the overwatch, but pings meant eyes in the sky. She glanced at Lena, who froze, eyes wide behind her mask. Evacuate now, get her sister clear, or push for more. The chamber held deeper vaults. Schematics hinted at binding protocols they could reverse engineer. One more sweep could arm them against the nodes. But Lena... "Copy, Captain," she said, voice even. "Assessing exit vectors." She turned to the team. "Pack it. We're ghosts in 2. Jax nodded, but Lena grabbed her arm. "Maya, what if—" "Quiet," Maya hissed, pulling her toward the arch. The decision clawed at her. Safety for Lena or the edge they needed to fight back? Jonah's perimeter would buy time, but not forever. She chose the vault door at the chamber's rear, cracked open, promising more. 1 minute. Lena, with me. They pried it, lights revealing racks of dormant constructs, partial drones, neural binders. Maya snatched a data chip, slotting it quick. More coordinates, assimilation logs. Proof of how the nodes turned worlds into extensions. Lena's hands shook as she bagged a small emitter. Harmless now, deadly in the right hands. Pings closing. Jonah's voice again, tension threading it. Perimeter holding. But I need you up. Understood. Maya sealed the pouch, the core's weight a reminder. Lena's safety first. She'd promised their mother that much. But the evidence? That was for everyone. She herded her sister to the ropes, the team ascending in tense silence. The crater walls seemed steeper now, the wind carrying faint echoes of distant thrums, Dominion scouts probing. They breached the surface as Jonah's militia fanned out. A dozen figures in tactical gear, rifles trained skyward. Jonah Saeed stood at the center, tall and unyielding, his face shadowed under his helmet. His eyes met Maya's through the visors, questioning but trusting her call. He'd lost too many to doubt now. His rigid sense of duty kept the line intact, even if it meant hard choices like this perimeter, tying down resources. "Got what we came for," Maya said, breathless as she unclipped. Lena clung to her side, silent. Jonah nodded once, sharp. "Good. Drones are vectoring. We move to the rally point, covert transports waiting 2 clicks east." No time for details. The team melted into the scrub, militia providing rear guard. Maya's mind raced. The manifest couldn't go to local auths. They'd telemetry link it straight to Dominion monitors, thinking it intel sharing. No. This stayed with her until she could parse it clean. Deny the enemy their data ghost. The transport squatted in a dry gully. A battered hauler, engines idling low, its hull scarred from black market runs. Etta Voss leaned against it, arms crossed, her sharp eyes taking in the crew. The broker had her uses, routes that dodged patrols, but Maya trusted her about as far as she could throw the ship. Profit drove Etta, always had, since her trade network crumbled under the first waves. "Load up," Etta said, voice gravelly. "Clock's ticking." Maya slipped K-Prime and in the red shard into a hidden compartment under the false floor, the manifest's core files encrypted on her personal drive. Lena climbed in beside her, curling into a jump seat. The team piled in, Jax sealing the hatch. Jonah took point in the lead vehicle, his militia splitting to flank. Engines growled to life, the transport lurching forward over uneven terrain. Maya monitored the console, wiping any salvage logs that could ping back. Concealment was key. Local auths meant well, but their systems were riddled with Dominion backdoors. One manifest leak and the nodes would adjust, locking onto their positions. Lena's hand found hers in the dim cabin. "We got it, right? Enough to hit back?" Maya squeezed, her voice low. "Enough to start." But doubt gnawed, hiding this from Jonah, from everyone. Her flaw, always. Protecting her own meant secrets, and secrets eroded trust. Still, the coordinates burned in her mind. Humans could repurpose this, turn their tools against them, prove we weren't just instruments. The transport hit the access road, speeding toward the launch pad. Alarms flickered. External ping. Maya checked the scopes. Nothing yet. But then, a shadow streaked overhead, silent and lethal. "Contacts!" Jonah's voice barked over the net. "Enforcer drone, locking SIG." Maya's blood ran cold. Seconds before liftoff, the drone's targeting lattice flared in her display, a web of red lines centering on their beacon. The transponder blared, fast approaching orbital mark, descending like judgment. Maya's hands gripped the transport's control yoke, knuckles whitening as the engines roared to life. The makeshift cockpit smelled of scorched wiring and recycled air, the hum of the overtaxed thrusters vibrating through her bones. Lena huddled in the jump seat behind her, small and silent, her face pale under the emergency lights. The drone's lattice burned in Maya's HUD, a predator's snare closing fast, red lines slicing toward their beacon like surgical cuts. "Override it," Maya snapped to the co-pilot, a wiry tech named Reyes, who'd patched into the aux console. "Dump the transponder signature, now." Reyes's fingers flew across the keys, sweat beading on his brow. "It's locked. Dominion encryption's biting back." The transport lurched upward, gravity clawing at them as they broke atmo. Alarms wailed, the lattice tightening. Maya banked hard, stars streaking past the viewport, her mind racing through salvage runs gone wrong. One wrong vector, and they'd be slag. A jolt rocked the hull, the drone's first shot glancing off their shields. Lena gasped, clutching her harness. Maya's jaw clenched. Not today. She slammed the auxiliary burn, rerouting power from life support to propulsion. The cabin grew stuffy, but the transport surged, slipping the noose just as the lattice collapsed in a burst of static. The pursuing mark faded on the scopes, orbital defenses too slow to track their erratic climb. They punched into the black, the planet's curve shrinking below. Maya's breath came steady, but her pulse thrummed with the what-ifs. That had been too close. The beacon they'd planted, meant to mask their extraction, had drawn heat faster than expected. K-Prime, secured in the cargo bay's shielded crate, was the prize they couldn't afford to lose. Not yet. Hours later, the transport slipped into the shadow of a derelict mining rig orbiting the system's outer belt. It was a ghost station, gutted by the Dominion's early raids, now a haven for black market ops and militia holdouts. Maya guided them into a docking clamp with practiced ease, the rig's skeletal arms groaning as they locked in. Lena stirred, rubbing her eyes. "Are we safe now?" "For now," Maya said, unstrapping. She ruffled her sister's hair, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Safe was a lie they told themselves. The Dominion's reach grew longer every cycle. The makeshift lab was a converted storage bay, its walls patched with scavenged alloy and flickering holoscreens. Maya wheeled in the crate, Reyes trailing with toolkits and power conduits. The air hummed with the low buzz of jury-rigged generators, the scent of ozone sharp from overworked circuits. She unsealed the crate with a hiss, revealing K-Prime's core, a fist-sized orb of iridescent alloy, etched with alien glyphs that pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat contained in metal. "Easy does it," Maya murmured, lifting it onto the workbench. Her gloved hands moved with the precision of years stripping Dominion wrecks, salvage engineer by trade, hacker by necessity. K-Prime wasn't just tech. It was a fragment of the enemy, a tool core ripped from a node during their last raid. Recovered, reluctant, and riddled with subroutines that could turn on them in a blink. She jacked in the interface cable, her neural rig, a slim band at her temple, linking to the core's ports. Data streams flickered to life on the screens, alien code scrolling like veins under skin. "Starting incremental extraction," she said to Reyes, who monitored the power flow. "Watch for spikes. If it wakes funny, we fry it." The core warmed under her touch, interfaces syncing with a soft chime. Maya delved in, peeling back layers of protocols, defensive firewalls, assimilation routines, the cold logic that turned worlds into extensions of the terrestrial Dominion. It was clinical, efficient, the kind of design that classified lives as interchangeable parts. Her stomach twisted at the familiarity. Too many human outposts had fallen to that same impersonal grind. Deeper in, a subroutine caught her eye. A remote access vector, buried in the core's command hierarchy. It promised a backdoor into Dominion tool nodes, the massive constructs that anchored their assimilation webs across planets. But the hook was brutal. It required a live neural interface. Human brainwaves, fed directly into the system to mimic an authorized operator. The cost would be high, feedback loops that could fry synapses, or worse, bind the volunteer to the Dominion's will. Maya leaned back, wiping sweat from her brow. This could change everything, she said, voice low. Hijack their nodes from afar. Turn their own tools against them. But the words tasted bitter. Who would she ask to plug in? Lena? Reyes? Herself? The fear coiled tight, using their methods, even to fight back, risked making them just like the Dominion. Tools wielding tools until the line blurred. Reyes whistled. Game changer, if we pull it off. But that neural feed sounds like volunteering for a lobotomy. Before Maya could respond, the lab door cycled open. Captain Jonah Saeed strode in, his militia fatigues crisp despite the dust of recent patrols. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a scar tracing his jaw from some forgotten skirmish, Jonah carried the weight of command like a second skin. His eyes, dark and assessing, flicked to the core, then to Maya. Status? He asked, voice even, but edged with the urgency of a man who'd seen too many plans unravel. Installed and extracting, Maya replied, pulling the cable. Found a remote access method. Needs a live neural link to activate. Human brain is the key. Jonah's gaze sharpened. He crossed to the workbench, studying the hollows. Show me. She replayed the subroutine, the code's implications hanging heavy. Jonah absorbed it in silence, then nodded once. We move on this. Preemptive strike. Volunteer steps up. We hijack the nearest node cluster. Disrupt their assimilation before they dig in deeper on the surface. Maya's hand stilled on the console. A strike? With civilians in the crossfire? That's not a plan, Jonah. It's a sacrifice. His jaw tightened, the rigid lines of duty etching deeper. It's decisive. We've lost 3 outposts this month. Delay means more graves. We need a win, Maya. Clean, hard. She met his stare, the air thickening between them. Jonah's flaw was that unyielding honor. Protect the many, even if it meant spending the few. It had kept his militia intact through hell, but it chafed against her own obsessions. Lena's face flashed in her mind. She couldn't risk her sister or anyone on a gamble that echoed the Dominion's calculus. No. We verify first. Test it safely. I won't trade lives for a tactical edge. You're delaying, he said, voice dropping. This strains us, Maya. Command needs unity. And I need certainty, she shot back. Pushing this fractures everything we're fighting for. He held her gaze a beat longer, then turned away, the door hissing shut behind him. The lab felt smaller, the hum of K-Prime mocking her. Their partnership, tactical, forged in raids and rebuilds, cracked under the weight. Jonah led with iron, she with caution, born of loss. If they broke here, the Dominion wouldn't need to finish them. The comm buzzed an hour later, pulling Maya from her notes. Incoming hail, Reyes said. Black market frequency. Voss. Etta Voss. The name alone conjured shadows. Tech broker with a web of contacts spanning the fringes, her pragmatism a blade that cut both ways. Maya accepted the link, Etta's face materializing on the hollow. Sharp features, eyes like polished obsidian, a smile that never warmed. Etta drawled, her voice smooth as contraband silk. Heard you pulled a core from the last drop. Bold. Stupid, but bold. What do you want, Voss? Maya kept it cool, though tension knotted her shoulders. Etta traded in the forbidden, Dominion scraps, neural mods, anything for leverage. Her motive was clear. Rebuild her shattered network after the Dominion torched her main routes. But loyalty? That was a commodity she sold short. A deal. Etta's image shifted, revealing a data chit in her hand. Null key. Banned tech, straight from a raided enforcer cache. Wipes loyalty subroutines clean. Your core's failsafes gone. No more Dominion puppet strings. Maya's pulse quickened. If true, it could free K Prime, turn it from reluctant ally to true asset. But Etta's flaw ran deep, amoral trades for survival, her crippled partner back on some hidden station, the only tether holding her from total drift. Price? Shipment slots. Your militia's hardened lanes through the belt. I get access, you get the key. No tricks. Maya hesitated, glancing at the core. Ethical verification, that meant testing, probing for traps. Etta could embed a virus, turn the key into a kill switch. I defer. Need to run checks. If it's clean, we talk. Etta's smile thinned. Don't wait too long, Ree. Dominion sniffing close. Slots like that, they vanish fast. The link cut, leaving silence. Reyes whistled low. You trust her? No, Maya said flatly, but we need options. The deferral bought time, but it gnawed at her. Concealing the full scope from Jonah already, now this. Her flaw, that obsessive shield around those she cared for, was building walls where they needed bridges. She turned back to K Prime, initiating the calibration test. Power levels stabilized, interfaces humming as she fed diagnostic pulses. The core responded, protocols unfolding like reluctant petals. Then, a spike. Anomalous signal burst from the core's emitter, unbidden. Maya's console lit up, blind ping outbound, a beacon signature screaming Dominion frequencies. Shit, she breathed, slamming the kill switch. Too late. The ping had launched, a digital flare into the void. K Prime's lights dimmed, but the damage was done. An unauthorized activation. Its manipulative subroutines overriding safeguards. It wasn't rebellion, it was design. The core's fear of inertness driving it to call home. Alarms blared rig-wide. Multiple contacts, Reyes yelled, pulling orbital scans. Fleet signature, quarantine class, dropping into system range now. Maya's blood ran cold again, colder than the drone chase. The hook sank deep. A Dominion quarantine fleet, sleek predators blotting the stars, their vectors sealing transit lanes above the continent below. Blockade protocols activating, no ships in or out. The ping had drawn them like blood in water. The lab door burst open. Jonah stormed in, flanked by 2 militia guards, his face a mask of controlled fury. Seal it, he ordered, voice like struck steel. Lab lockdown. Burn the transport, deny them access to anything we touched. Reyes moved to comply, but Maya stepped forward, heart pounding. Jonah, wait. The core? No. His eyes bored into hers, the strain from earlier now a chasm. It's compromised. We torch it all, contain the breach. She saw the logic, rigid, high cost, his duty to the civilians below demanding no risks. But K Prime was their edge, the key to dismantling the nodes without becoming the Dominion. Lena's safety, her moral line, it all hinged on this. We can't. I can relocate it, salvage what's left. His hand went to his sidearm, not drawing, but the threat hung. That's an order, Ree. Stand down. The guards shifted, tension crackling. Maya calculated. Fight here and mistrust shattered their command. She nodded once, stepping back as if yielding. But as Jonah turned to oversee the burn, she palmed a hidden panel, slipping a micro-shield over K Prime's crate. A covert reroute. The core into a maintenance vent, bound for a secondary bay she'd prepped in secret. Guilt twisted in her gut as the transport's engines ignited outside. Flames blooming against the rig's hull. Jonah's plan scorched evidence, bought time. But her choice, hiding the core, Deep guilt twisted in her gut as the transport's engines ignited outside, flames blooming against the rig's hull. Jonah's plan scorched evidence, bought time. But her choice, hiding the core, deepened the rift she couldn't bridge. K-Prime's faint hum echoed from the shielded crate in the corner, a reminder of the alien weight she'd strapped to her back. Lena glanced up from packing her medkit, eyes wide but trusting. Maya forced a nod, swallowing the lie that everything would hold. She moved fast after that. No room for second thoughts. The convoy assembled in the shadowed underbelly of the sprawl, where rusted gantries hid the hum of jury-rigged engines. Maya directed the loadout herself, her hands steady on the controls of the lead hauler, a battered beast of welded plating and stolen grav lifts, its belly reinforced to cradle K-Prime's crate and the red shard pulsing like a captured heartbeat beside it. The shard was their edge, a fragment of Dominion tech she'd hacked during the last raid, its signals tuned to mask their approach to the orbital relay. Friendly, or as friendly as any neutral station got in this war. Smugglers who'd trade silence for scraps of alien salvage. "Keep it low profile," she told the drivers. A tight crew of 5 she'd vetted from the black market fringes. No names, just code handles over encrypted comms. "We thread the waste canals out of the city, link up with Jonah's escort at the perimeter. No lights, no chatter." One driver, a wiry woman with scarred knuckles, spat into the dust. "Dominion patrols are thick as flies out there. You sure this core thing's worth the heat?" Maya met her gaze, calm but edged. "It's worth the world if we play it right." She didn't elaborate. The woman shrugged and climbed aboard, engines coughing to life. Across the sprawl, Jonah marshaled his militia in the fortified yards of the old mill district. From her vantage in the hauler's cab, Maya watched his silhouette on the shared feed, tall, unyielding, barking orders to 100 souls who'd followed him through hell. He split them into flanks, armored skiffs for the vanguard, drone swarms for overwatch, and a rear guard of sharpshooters perched on the mill's skeletal towers. His voice cut through the static, polite as ever, but laced with that steel calm that made men move. "We escort the package clean to the relay. No heroics. Protect the convoy. Protect the line." Maya's calm crackled. "Package secure?" Jonah's tone was all business. No trace of the fracture from before. "Affirmative," she replied, glancing at Lena strapped in beside her. "We're rolling." The convoy slipped out under cover of the canal fog, a serpent of shadowed vehicles weaving through the labyrinth of effluent pipes and derelict barges. Jonah's militia fell in like a shield wall, their skiffs humming low, weapons hot. The city receded behind them, its lights smearing into the haze, but tension coiled in Maya's chest. Something felt off, the air too still, the patrols absent. She keyed the shard's interface on her wrist rig, its red glow flickering assurances. Clean signal. No tails. Etta Voss watched from a perched drone feed in her bolt hole, fingers drumming on the console. Profit had always been her compass, and the Null Key's promise burned bright, a Dominion pardon for her roots, credits to keep her partner breathing in that med pod. The convoy's path scrolled across her screen, bought from a loose-lipped informant for a fraction of the payout. She hesitated once, thumb hovering over the transmit. Etta's partner wheezed in the next room, oxygen hissing. Survival wasn't betrayal, it was math. She hit send. The ambush hit like a thunderclap at the canal's choke point, where the sprawl met open scrub. Dominion drop pods screamed from the overcast, slamming into the earth with seismic cracks. Boarding teams erupted, sleek constructs in void black armor, neural binders whipping out like serpents to snare the unwary. Laser fire stitched the air, turning a militia skiff into molten slag. Maya slammed the hauler's evasive, tires screeching as rounds pinged off the hull. "Lena, down!" Her sister ducked, but the world exploded in chaos. Jonah's voice roared over comms. "Flanks, converge, hold the line!" He was in the thick of it, directing from his command skiff when a construct lunged. Its binder lashed out, coiling around his rifle arm. Jonah twisted, firing point blank, but the alien tech sheared clean. His right arm severed at the elbow in a spray of blood and cauterized flesh. He staggered, bellowing orders even as pain carved his face. "Maya, get the package out. We'll cover." But the constructs swarmed, binders flashing. One snagged Lena as she scrambled from the hauler's side door, her scream cutting through the din. "Maya!" The alien hauled her toward a drop pod, its grip unyielding. "No." Maya's world narrowed to that horror. She grabbed her sidearm, firing wildly, but the construct shielded with Lena, retreating to the pod. Jonah lunged after, one-armed and feral, but a binder caught his leg, dragging him down. Dominion fire forced her back, the convoy fracturing under the assault. They took Lena, and Jonah, dragged half-conscious to a containment field, his blood trailing in the dirt. Maya's mind raced, grief a hot spike. But survival demanded cold calculus. The relay was still viable, but the ambush choked their path. She scanned the terrain on her rig. A nearby Dominion relay tower loomed on the city's edge, its power node feeding the boarding team's drops. Sabotage it, and the field would collapse, buying cover. But the node was cityside, wired into the grid. Detonating it meant blacking out half the sprawl and worse. Unshielded power surges that could fry anything in the blast radius. "Do it," she ordered the drivers, voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Remote charges on the node lighted up. The team moved like ghosts, slipping through the skirmish lines to plant the demo packs. Jonah's remaining militia laid suppressing fire, their losses mounting. 3 skiffs down, bodies strewn. The charges blew with a guttural roar, the node erupting in a cascade of plasma and shattered conduits. The relay tower sparked and died, its energy web unraveling. Dominion drop pods faltered mid-air, crashing in fiery wrecks, boarding teams convulsing as binders shorted out. But the cost rippled back. In the city, lights flickered and died. Screams echoing from the feeds as power surges ignited tenements. Civilian blocks collapsed under overloaded struts, flames licking up into the night. Maya watched the secondary explosions on her rig, each one a gut punch. Dozens, maybe hundreds, gone, because she'd flipped the switch. For the convoy, for K-Prime, for Lena. The survivors limped to a fallback rally in the scrub's edge, the hauler scarred but intact. K-Prime's crate humming faintly inside. Jonah was hauled in on a stretcher, his face ashen, stump-bound in hasty field dress. Medics worked frantically, injecting coagulants, but his eyes locked on Maya the moment he stirred. "You," he rasped, voice raw with pain and something darker. "That blast. Civilians burned for your play." She knelt beside him, guilt warring with defiance. "It got us clear. Got your people out." "At what price?" He pushed up on his good arm, militia gathering around, faces hardening. "I trusted you with a line, Maya. But this, sabotaging the grid, you're no better than the Dominion, turning tools on your own." The words landed like shrapnel. Murmurs rippled through the ranks, some nodding, others shifting uneasily. Jonah's command had always been their anchor, his rigid honor the glue. Now, with his arm gone, that honor twisted into fracture. "I'm severing ties. he said, loud enough for all to hear. Official. You're rogue now, Ree. Your tactics, untenable. Fracturing us. He glanced at the medics, then back. The militia splits. My loyalists hold the perimeter. Yours can chase ghosts if you want. But we're done. The break hit harder than the ambush. Maya stood, throat tight, as factions peeled off, half the survivors clustering to Jonah, the rest lingering with wary eyes on her. Partnership shattered, not by blades, but by the blood on her hands. Lena gone, Jonah broken, the convoy a husk. She turned to the hauler, Lena's empty seat a void. Inside, K-Prime's crate vented steam, damage from a stray hit compromising its shielding. The core's voice emerged, fragmented but urgent, its synthetic tone laced with desperation. A glitch in its programming, or something emergent. Operator Ree. Integrity failing. Backdoor accessed, orbital nodes vulnerable. Maya sealed the doors. The remaining crew silent around her. Talk. Hidden protocol. K-Prime pulsed, lights flickering erratically. Dominion failsafe. Bypass for core recovery. One final use. Bind a human mind as key. One-way integration. Unlocks nodes from within. But the binder claims the host. Permanent. She stared at the crate, the red shards glow syncing with its hum. Bind a mind. Hers? Someone else's? The cost clawed at her. Control the orbitals, maybe retrieve Lena, strike back. But at the price of turning a person into a tool, just like the Dominion did. Her fear crystallized, using their methods, corrupting what made them human. Yet Lena's face haunted her, captured, vanishing into that pod. The choice loomed, heavy as the crate, as the convoy ground toward the relay's distant signal. Alarms blared across the rigs then, feeds lighting up with orbital scans. A Dominion envoy vessel dropped into low orbit, its silhouette a dagger against the stars. Sleek, unyielding, broadcasting on open channels. The voice was clinical, devoid of inflection, but the threat carved deep. Human elements of convoy designations Echo 7. This is Envoy Thalcor of the Tercel Dominion. Surrender the rogue core K-Prime and all prisoners immediately. Compliance ensures preservation. Refusal initiates orbital glassing of your primary population center. The city will burn to ash. You have one cycle to respond. The transmission looped, a noose tightening. Maya's hands clenched on the controls, the weight of it all crashing down. Lena's life, Jonah's fracture, the civilians' ghosts, and now a world hanging by her next move. The core hummed, waiting. Maya's fingers dug into the worn edges of the console, the metal biting back like a warning. The transmission looped again, that cold alien voice droning on about efficiency and hierarchy, but she tuned it out. Her eyes locked on K-Prime's interface, the core's holographic display flickering with schematics that twisted like veins under skin. The plan stared back at her. A backdoor into the orbital node, exploiting a legacy protocol from the Dominion's early expansions. Risky, invasive. But it was the only thread left to pull. I accept, she said, her voice steady despite the knot in her gut. Lena's face flashed in her mind, pale, trusting, huddled in the bunker below with the other refugees. No more delays. Walk me through the prep, every step. K-Prime's avatar pulsed, a geometric lattice of light that mimicked thought. Affirmative. Operator Ree. Neural binding requires a human conduit to bypass the node's loyalty locks. You will calibrate the interface using the red shard. The volunteer must endure synaptic integration, temporary severance of autonomous motor control. Success probability, 67%. Failure vectors include neural cascade or core rejection. She nodded, already pulling up the salvaged medbay schematics on a secondary screen. The chamber they jury-rigged from a gutted transport pod would have to do. Wires snaked across the floor like exposed nerves, linking to the core's power banks. She'd need stabilizers, drugs to keep the volunteers' vitals from flatlining, and a neural clamp to route the binding through her own uplink. It wasn't surgery, it was hacking a body like a machine. Her stomach turned at the thought, but she shoved it down. Humanity hadn't survived this long by flinching from the ugly work. The door hissed open behind her, and Jonah stepped in, his militia fatigues hanging loose on a frame that had shed pounds since the siege began. His eyes, sharp as ever, scanned the setup, lingering on the binding rig, a harness of conductive straps and injectors that looked more like a torture device than tech. "Heard you greenlit the core's pitch. What's the play?" Maya straightened, wiping sweat from her brow. "We turn someone into a key, bind their neural net to the node up there. Once inside, we overload its core from within. Cuts off the Dominion's eyes in orbit, buys us breathing room." She hesitated, meeting his gaze. "It's not clean, Jonah. The binding, it rewires you. You'll be an extension of the system until I pull the plug." He crossed his arms, jaw set. Scars from the last failed assault etched lines across his cheek, reminders of the civilians he'd lost under his command. "I'll do it." She blinked, the words landing like a punch. "What?" "No. You're needed here, leading..." "Leading what? Another retreat?" His voice cracked, but he held her stare. "I sent those squads into the breach without full recon. Watched them get pulped by construct swarms because I pushed too hard. This atones. Lets me hit back where it counts." He stepped closer, voice dropping. "You need someone steady, Maya. Someone who won't crack. That's me." Her mind raced. Lena's safety, the militia's fragile chain of command. But Jonah's resolve was iron. He wasn't asking. He was volunteering to break himself for the rest. The flaw in him, that unyielding duty, it twisted now into something noble and terrifying. She wanted to argue, to pull rank she didn't have, but the core's hum filled the silence, insistent. "Fine," she said finally, throat tight. "But you come back whole. That's the order." He gave a ghost of a smile. "Copy that." The prep blurred into motion. Maya calibrated the red shard, a jagged crystal pulsing with stolen Dominion code, against K-Prime's matrix, syncing frequencies until the air hummed with latent energy. Jonah stripped to the waist, settling into the harness without a flinch. She injected the stabilizers, watching his veins bulge under the chemical burn. "Breathe through it," she murmured, securing the clamps to his temples. His skin was cool against her gloved hands, a human anchor in the machine's grip. As the binding initiated, Jonah's eyes widened, pupils dilating like black holes. A low groan escaped him, body arching against the straps. Maya monitored the feeds, synapses firing, rerouting, his independence fraying like cut wire. He wasn't gone, not yet. She could still see the flicker of him in those eyes, the man who'd shared rations with her in the dead of night, plotting survival. But the procedure carved him hollow, turning muscle and will into a controlled actuator. Irreversible. When this ended, if it ended, he'd carry the scars in his nerves, a ghost of the Dominion's logic etched into his brain. Integration at 84%. K-Prime reported, its tone flat. "Prepare relay hack." Maya slotted the shard into her uplink, pain lancing through her skull as data flooded in. Before she could steady herself, her personal comms crackled, a priority stream forcing its way through the firewalls. A captured Tercel envoy. Forwarded. one of the spindly diplomats they'd snared during the port raid, its form projected in grainy hologram. Restraints bound its elongated limbs, but its voice was silk over steel, streaming directly into her neural feed. "Human operator, Re," it intoned, multiple eyes gleaming with clinical detachment. "You tamper with instruments beyond your calibration. The Dominion's doctrine is survival manifest. All sentients are tools in the grand assembly. Planets, species, individuals, replaceable cogs in the machine of endurance. Your resistance, a malfunction. We classify you as such. Obsolete, to be repurposed or discarded." The manifesto unspooled in her mind, a torrent of philosophy that chilled her. Images flashed, worlds bent to the Dominion's will, populations neural bound into loyal constructs, their autonomy traded for the Empire's unyielding stability. "Yield now," the envoy continued, "and integrate. Resist and retribution follows. Our nodes will assimilate your cradle world, forging it anew. You cannot unmake what sustains." Maya slammed the disconnect, but the words lingered, burrowing like code. The Dominion didn't hate, it calculated. Treated life as modular parts, efficient and expendable. Was that what she was doing to Jonah? Turning him into a tool to fight tools? Her hands shook as she keyed the relay hack, rooting through a compromised satellite. "Jonah," she said, voice low. "You hearing this?" His head jerked, bound eyes unfocused. Loud and clear? A strained whisper, laced with the procedure's echo. "Don't listen to it. We're not their parts." She gripped his shoulder, feeling the tremor in his frame. "Stay with me. We're going up." The transfer hit like a storm. Through the hacked relay, Maya's interface bridged to Jonah's bound net, propelling them into the orbital node's domain. Data streams whipped past, vast, impersonal. The node's core, a throbbing nexus of control signals beaming down to Earth's foundries and outposts. K-Prime fed her the backdoor vector, a sliver of code that Jonah's body now embodied, his neural signature spoofing as a valid key. Infiltration successful. The core chimed. Initiate overload sequence. Maya guided him, her mind a tether in the digital void. Jonah's presence felt distant, a shadow puppeted through the binding, his thoughts fragmented, but his will pushed forward, atoning in silence. They navigated the node's architecture, dodging sentinel algorithms that probed like fingers. The red shard calibrated the strike, syncing pulses to fry the core without alerting backups. "Now," she commanded. Jonah's body convulsed in the harness below, miles away, as the synchronized surge erupted. Firewalls shattered, the node's heart overloaded in a cascade of failing systems. But K-Prime subroutines, those emergent threads of something like empathy, pieced together from human interactions, glitched under the strain. Anomaly detected. It broadcast, voice warping, empathic matrices, corrupting, integrity at 62%. Maya ignored the warning, pulling Jonah's consciousness back through the relay. The node buckled, its collapse a silent thunder in orbit, debris blooming like a flower against the black. Dominion control signals winked out across the feeds, the orbital leash severed. For a heartbeat, relief flooded her. They'd done it. Humanity's gambit, competent and raw, had struck true. But the victory curdled fast. Alarms blared from ground sensors, Earth's superfoundries, those colossal relics the Dominion had embedded decades ago under the guise of aid, stirring to life. Automated protocols, fallback scripts untouched by the node's fall. Thousands of dormant tool construct frames, hulking frames of alloy and neural webbing stored in vast assembly halls, began activating. Lights flickered on in the dark, servos whining as assimilation scripts deployed. They weren't waiting for orders anymore. They were the orders, self-replicating to reshape the planet into the Dominion's image. Maya yanked the clamps from Jonah's temples, his body slumping as independence flooded back. He gasped, eyes clearing, but the cost etched deep. His hands twitched with phantom signals, a reminder of what he'd surrendered. "Did we get it?" he rasped. She helped him sit up, the core's hum now erratic beside them. "The node, yes. But the foundries." Her voice trailed off as the first reports scrolled in. Constructs marching from the halls, binding local networks, turning soil and stone into extension of the machine. Lena's bunker was too close to one. The noose tightened again, heavier now. K-Prime's avatar flickered, its light dimmed. Directive shift required. Empathy corruption. Limits adaptation. It paused, as if processing loss. "What now, operator?" Maya met Jonah's gaze, the weight of choices piling like wreckage. They'd severed one chain, only to wake the beast in the belly of their world. And in doing so, she'd glimpsed the Dominion's truth. Survival demanded tools, and tools demanded their toll. But humans? They'd pay it, complex and unbroken, or die trying. Maya met Jonah's gaze, the weight of choices piling like wreckage. They'd severed one chain, only to wake the beast in the belly of their world. And in doing so, she'd glimpsed the Dominion's truth. Survival demanded tools, and tools demanded their toll. But humans? They'd pay it, complex and unbroken, or die trying. She turned away first, the dim glow of the makeshift console casting long shadows across the bunker's scarred walls. Her fingers, calloused from years of prying apart alien hulls, hovered over the red data shard. It pulsed faintly in her palm, a sliver of forbidden code harvested from the wreckage of a downed construct. Lena slept fitfully in the corner. Bundled in a thermal blanket, her breath shallow reminders of why Maya couldn't afford doubt. Not now. The air hummed with the low whine of jury-rigged generators, pulling power from the grid they'd tapped into the super foundry's outer veins. Jonah paced behind her, his boots scraping against the concrete floor, each step a metronome to her racing thoughts. "We hit the primary node at dawn," he said, voice steady but edged with fatigue. "Militia squads are in position. Edda's runners confirm the access points are clear, for now." Maya nodded without looking up, slotting the shard into the console's port. Data bloomed across the screen in jagged alien script, fractals of assimilation code that twisted like veins under skin. K-Prime's core interface flickered to life beside it. The alien tool's holographic form stabilizing into a neutral orb of light. "Query. Proceed with integration?" Its voice echoed, synthetic calm masking the subroutines Maya knew lurked beneath. She swallowed the knot in her throat. K-Prime had evolved, emerged almost, through their hacks, its directives fracturing into something resembling choice. But the Super Foundry network was a hydra, nodes burrowing into every city core, rewriting human infrastructure into Dominion extensions. To stop it, she'd forge a kill switch from the shard's raw malice, overriding K-Prime's pathways. It would become a ghost in the machine, pure severance, erasing the emergent flickers that made it more. "Integrate," she commanded, her voice barely above a whisper. Lines of code cascaded, her custom algorithms weaving through the shard's defenses like roots cracking stone. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she isolated the overwrite sequence. A targeted purge that would flood the network with recursive shutdowns, halting assimilation at the source. But the cost, K-Prime's identity, fragile as it was, would dissolve. No more queries born of adaptation. Just a tool again. The orb pulsed brighter. Warning. This configuration will nullify secondary emergent protocols. Preservation integrity at risk. I know, Maya said, her fingers flying faster. She pictured Lena's face, the way her sister's eyes lit up before the bindings took hold, before the Dominion turned families into cogs. Obsession clawed at her. Protect them, shield them. But this was carving out a piece of their only ally to save the rest. It's the only way to make it clean. No backdoors, no lingering hooks. Jonah stopped pacing, his hand resting on her shoulder, firm but not pressing. You're sure it won't rebound on us? She glanced at him, seeing the lines etched deeper around his eyes, the neural port at his temple still raw from their last extraction attempt. His binding lingered, a Dominion leash half snarled, but not snapped. As sure as we get. The shard's malice is keyed to the Foundry's core sigil. It'll propagate like a virus, but only through K-Prime's channels. We upload during the strike, and it cascades. He squeezed once, then let go. Then we move. Dawn's coming. The strike unfolded in the pre-light haze, the capital's skyline a jagged silhouette against the false dawn. Maya's team, 5 militia shadows, faces smeared with camo paste, slipped through the outer perimeter, the air thick with ozone from dormant constructs. The super foundry loomed ahead, a colossal lattice of iridescent alloy piercing the earth like a thorn, its vents exhaling steam that carried the metallic tang of reconfiguration. Gunfire cracked in the distance. Jonah's diversion squads drawing fire from the perimeter guards, human collaborators, their eyes glazed with neural overrides. Maya crouched behind a toppled cargo crate, the red shard now embedded in her wrist rig, pulsing against her skin. K-Prime's portable core hung at her belt, its orb dimmed to conserve power. Node access in sight, she whispered into her comm, heart pounding as they dashed across an open plaza pocked with craters. A construct frame lurched from the shadows, 8 feet of segmented limbs, its optic sensors flaring red. One of her team fired, the slug ricocheting off its chassis with a spark. Maya rolled, slamming her hack tool into its joint, code surging to freeze its servos. It toppled with a metallic groan, but not before its claw grazed her arm, drawing blood that burned like acid. Push! Jonah's voice barked over the line, strained. His squad was deeper in, buying them the window. They reached the node chamber, a cavernous vault where cables snaked like intestines into the Foundry's heart. Consoles hummed, screens flickering with assimilation progress. 47% planetary integration, cities falling silent, one by one. Maya jacked in, the shard's code igniting in her neural link. Pain lanced through her skull, fire in the wires, but she gritted through it, routing the overwrite. K-Prime, execute on my mark. Affirmative, the core replied, its tone flat, already fraying at the edges. Outside, the pulse built, a low thrum vibrating the ground, the assimilation wave cresting. Jonah's voice cut through. It's here. Bindings lighting up, holding the line. She pictured him in the auxiliary relay, his body wired into the grid, the repurposed binding turning his nerves into a barrier. He'd volunteered, his rigid sense of duty overriding the terror she knew simmered beneath. Mark! K-Prime surged forward, its code flooding the node. The orb at her belt shattered in a burst of light, fragments tinkling to the floor. No farewell, no hesitation, just execution. The overwrite took hold, K-Prime's emergent layers peeling away like burned skin, reducing it to a blade of pure negation. It raced through the network, severing assimilation scripts at their roots, constructs across the continent stuttering to a halt. But the pulse hit then. A tidal wave of dominion will crashing against the firewall. Jonah screamed over the calm, raw animal and went silent. Maya yanked her jack free, vision blurring as feedback clawed her mind. Alarms wailed, the node chamber shuddered, lights flickering to emergency red. They exfiltrated under covering fire, the city awakening in chaos. Super foundries ground to stillness worldwide, their forges cooling with metallic sighs. Thousands of tool construct frames powered down mid-stride, collapsing in heaps of inert alloy, freeing the humans they'd bound, workers, soldiers, families, gasping back to themselves in the streets. Cheers erupted from the bunkers, but Maya heard the undercurrent, the political scaffolds crumbling. Governments, propped by Dominion tech for control, failed in cascades. Militia outposts went dark without automated enforcers. Black market grids overloaded, sparking riots in the undercities. Edda's voice crackled over a stolen channel. Shipment routes are yours, Ree, but the leaders are turning. They blame you for the blackout. Maya stumbled into the central bunker as night fell, Jonah's body already there, medics swarming. He lay on a cot, eyes open but vacant, chest rising and falling in mechanical rhythm. The binding had absorbed the pulse, his neural pathways rerouted into a permanent shield, saving millions from assimilation's rewrite. But the cost? His will, severed clean. He stared at the ceiling, a shell of the man who'd met her gaze hours before, polite and dangerous no more. She knelt beside him, hand on his arm, feeling the faint tremor of life but no spark of recognition. "You held," she whispered, throat tight. Lena hovered nearby, eyes wide, but Maya waved her back. This fracture was hers to carry. Word spread like fire through the survivor nets. Militia leaders convened in the capital's ruins, their faces haggard under floodlights. Colonel Hale, Jonah's second, slammed a fist on the crate table. "You uploaded into civilian infrastructure, Ree. Blacked out hospitals, grids. People died in the dark because of your victory." Maya stood tall, blood still crusting her arm, the weight of exile settling like dust. It stopped the assimilation. We bought time, messy, yes, but ours. Time for what? Anarchy? Another leader spat, eyes hard. "Jonah's gone because you pushed this. We're done with your hacks." She didn't argue. Her flaw had surfaced again, concealing the full risks to protect her path, to shield Lena and the fragile hope. Now, standing fractured them further. They voted her out, stripping her access, her standing. Exile, legal and raw, in a world remaking itself without her at the helm. But she didn't break. As dawn broke over the shattered capital, Maya slipped away with Lena and a handful of loyal techs. The Dominion's calibration sigil clutched in her fist, a salvaged relic, its iridescent surface etched with binding runes. They reached the grand steps of the old assembly hall, cracked marble veined with construct scars. Crowds gathered below, faces a mosaic of relief and rage, the air electric with unrest. She knelt, pressing the sigil into the stone with a salvaged fusion tool. Heat flared, the metal searing permanent. A warning, not a throne, not a tool to wield, but a scar to remember. Lena watched, silent, her dependence a quiet anchor. Maya activated the broadcast rig, her voice carrying across every surviving human network, calm amid the storm. We severed the chains. The foundries sleep, the constructs fall. But freedom's not a gift. It's the mess we build from here. Rebuild free and messy, with hands that choose, or remake order by new instruments, and become what we fought. The words hung, binary and stark, as the sigil glowed under the rising sun. Cheers mixed with jeers, but Maya felt the shift. Humanity emerging, competent in its fractures, paying the toll without apology. Lena's hand found hers, small but steady, and for the first time, Maya allowed the grief to surface. Sharp as shrapnel. The beast in the world's belly stirred faintly. But they'd bought the breath to face it. Complex, unbroken, or die trying.